G'day guys, welcome back to In My Shed. I'm BC. I'm back on the loco riding car for the club, and I just thought I'd show a little bit of my marking out procedures, and some of these hints are just common sense and some you might know about. They're not all my ideas. A lot of it I picked out of a tool making book called Advanced Machine Work from the 1930s. It was their prelude into tool making. An absolute excellent book by Mr. Smith, I believe. Also, I'll show you a little bit of the grinder table. Yes, I can't leave that job alone. Surprised how damn good the vinegar works. And I want to get that job done because all of my bench space everywhere have the guts of the grinder parts. It's amazing, you take a big machine apart, just how much crap goes into it. Okay, one item I'd like to put forward is a spotting drill, and this isn't my knowledge. I'm just passing on what I read in a book about the difference between a centre drill and a spotting drill. Now I've marked out and spotted one of the plates, and I'll drop that up on top of parallels in the mill, up against the stop, and that'll allow me to drill the holes quite accurately where they want to be, and only mark out one plate and drill through to the one underneath. I will use a centre finder to locate the centre punch mark, and that'll make it easy to punch the hole through in the right place. Now, getting these holes accurately in position can be a little bit of a pain. I go back about 60 years and use the odd leg, I think they call them hermaphrodite calipers, and that assists you. You might not be accurate to with 1/1000, but they'll all be in the same plane because you're measuring with the one device. That helps quite a bit. And one thing I picked up from the Advanced Machining book is once you've scribed your lines, I use a little Starrett prick punch, not a centre punch. Now the end of the prick punch is ground to 60 degrees included angle, not 90 out of a normal centre punch, and the idea is you lay the prick punch down into one layout line and you drag it along that line, and when you get to the intersecting line it clicks in place. Then you stand it up, you give it a light tap. If you want to, especially if you're a boiler maker, you can use a big centre punch then in that prick punch line and give it a wallop with a big hammer. Now that puts you very, very closely to where you want to be, and that's one of my treasured possessions. You only need a small one with about a 2.5mm end on it, and that allows you to do a lot of marking out. Although my eyes are getting fairly dim with age, and I've got cataracts coming in, so I always keep a bench spotlight of some description to help out. Makes it fairly easy. Now, once you've marked it out with your centre punch, and I found this through my experience as well, if you put an item up on the bench there, whether it's just sitting on the drill press table or whether it's clamped down, if you use the centre drill will draw the centre punch mark over to it, so you can lose your exact positioning. If you use a spotting drill, I find that it tends to either move the drill to the centre punch mark, or if the work is just sitting on the table, move the work across slightly till the centre punch mark is directly under the drill. And that's what I did. I just put these plates up on the table, put the drill up there, located it at the centre punch mark, waited till it all settled itself out, and then I clamped it with the table clamp and spotted it. So it's not that much mucking around, but it does help you get the centre punch marks exactly where you want them. Now I've got both buffer beams up on the table, held by the flanges. It's PFC, parallel flange channel, and I do it this way, so try and get the loco a little bit symmetrical. First thing I did, as I was told, is put a centre line in, come across onto the other bit of PFC, draw the line across, and you split them both into equal halves. And any of the layout lines don't really show up well because of the still unfinished surface on the buffer beam. So I just go along with the centre punch and lightly put a centre punch mark at either end of the lines, and that helps you to pick them up later on when you're up on the mill, etc. The idea being these will go up and be drilled 1/4 inch for clearance on 6mm socket and catch screws. And once they're drilled, before the pockets get welded in place, I'll place these onto the buffer beams. Use quite a large clamp them in place, and then I can just spot through and get the positions where I want to drill the holes for the buffer sockets. Now this also is worth a mention. It's a lockjaw clamp by Sutton, and you don't have to adjust it. Wherever you meet the material, it will start to clamp. The only thing they're not good for is taking out sheet gap. If they touch something and you've got to pull up 2 or 3mm, it's trying to clamp where it touched, not where it's pulled the sheet gap up. But for a job like this, you position it where you want it, measure so that it's in the right place, clamp it, and you can put it up on the mill table, hanging over the side, the drill table, or up on the mill, and just spot through quite easily. And what I would do in this case is clamp the buffer beam by the end of the beam and have the rest of it hanging out the side of the vise, and that allows me to come in with the clamp to hold it down. Now hopefully doing it that way will allow me to get the couple of socket plates, mount plates, positioned correctly, and then all I have to do is put these up on the plates later on, weld them in place, and it's exactly what you want, Bob's your uncle. I have to be a little bit careful with these because both of the buffer beams are just a little bit different. The front buffer beam is just going to have a pocket like this with a hole drilled through it to take a drag link. It doesn't have a coupler, and I don't think I'll even put a reinforcing patch in it because it might be used once and twice in the life of the loco to tow it home when the batteries are flat. So there's no use putting a real heavy duty drawbar coupler in there. The other will have, I think, a false coupler cover like that, and a 1 inch square hole or 1 1/4 square hole through the buffer for couplers to go into. This is like a show and tell. That's the carcass of a quick action coupler, and that will be going inside a pocket that sits in the buffer beam. So that's a little bit of what we're up to in the shed here. I'm slow getting stuff out now. I've got family up from Sydney and a little 1.5-year-old granddaughter to keep me busy. Okay, we'll go over to the mill, drill out these holes, put them up on the buffer beam and spot them through. And once they're spotted onto the beam, I'll be able to drill them through with the tap and drill size. Bring you back soon. G'day fellas, back again at the Turra mill here. I've got a little edge and centre finder set up in the keyless chuck, and I quite like this for finding the centre of a hole or a centre punch mark. I just bring it down and put it into the centre punch mark and feel around the outside, and because it's sharp edges on the outside you can feel 1 or 1.5 thou of difference. Get those needle points out of the way and just adjust your hand wheels to suit. And I found that over the years to be reasonably accurate. Good enough for model trains anyway. Make sure there's no poo on the shank of the drill. Now also, I don't agree with using squirter bottles for your cutting compound unless you really have to. Fair enough, water soluble if you want to cool the drill bit down, but you know, squirting cutting oil on there, you just pollute the world and you waste money. You're only after thin film lubrication. Just break the spool so it's at a manageable clean-up state. And not leave too much. When I first started dealing with tool makers, I asked Johnny Herman, why the hell do you want a brake on a milling machine? And he said, well, he would do quite a lot of repetitive operations, and if for every operation he had to spend 3 or 4 seconds waiting for the drill to stop, multiply that by 100, and that's a few dollars every day in his working day that he would lose. My marking out doesn't seem to be all that accurate. That looks like it's going to go down the right place. The actual positioning is not that important in this case because I'll be spotting through from this plate. I'll mount it onto the buffer beam in a position that I want it to sit in, and then mark through and then put the tapping size drill through. It's good to get some time in the shed. Time with family is wonderful, so is time in the shed. Now, if you don't have a centre finder, you'll probably get away using an old-fashioned whittler. But if you don't have a whittler, just a piece of rod that you'll ground as accurately as you can to a point, and you'll get that hole within a reasonable distance from where you want it to be. Okay, I'll bring you back when there's more to show. Okay guys, just to keep you updated with what's happening with the grinder table, or the grinder period, Tom Lipton from Ox Tools did a bit of a clean up on a new horizontal mill he's got, and he was using vinegar and cooking powder, and he's come up fairly well. Well, this particular item I've been scratching at with a scraper on material that calibre, and it was having some success with the caustic, but man, one hit with the vinegar, I've wiped it with a rag here and here, and it's just dissolved the rust bloody instantly. Now I've let it dry out and it's become yuck again, but you just rejuvenate it with more vinegar and then you wipe the rust off. So I know what I'm going to be recommending to everybody now. Just a cheap 2 litre vinegar from the supermarket. And you can see this bit is what it comes out like, bright metal. It's still a remaining fleck of rust where the original flaking was from the scraping. There, you can get a much closer look at it. So this is all going to come out quite good in the end. I'm very happy with that. Okay, back to loco parts now. Okay guys, just spotting through. I've clamped the toe pocket plate, mount plate in position. And what I've done is I've moved the X and Y until the drill doesn't touch in that direction. Drill doesn't touch in that direction. And sometimes if I'm not wanting to spot the material down below, I will use the other end of the drill because you get a slightly better feel. But this way I can spot it, just drill about 1.5 mil deep, change the drill over to the tapping drill size, so that I've then positioned, spot, tapping drill, all in one hit. And I could probably even tap it in the same go. So it's fairly easy to do it this way. Quick demo. That's the start of the hole. In with the magnetic drill. And I'd say that one's been machined ground, it seems to be cutting quite freely. All done. Not too bad an effort, except for the magnetism. Okay, just for giggles, we see if we can't tap it in the same situation. Oh, that's a bit wobbly. And again, must be a bit of cack on the thread, on the shank. A little bit better. Okay, well that went in. Oh, bugger. Reverse on that side's not much good. Bring your backless out. I'll bring you back for the next one. There's not much height over the table to get the tap wrench in, but believe it or not, the tap came out by hand. So we'll just spot it with this one. That should be plenty. Put the tapping drill size in. Let's hope I can get it concentric this time. Oh, that drill chews it up. That sticks like POO to the blanket. Wipe a bit of the cack off. Put some different cack roller on. And away we go. And that's it. Now I'll get a wrench and wind it out. Well, actually God's shining on me today. This is twice the tap's come out by hand. Okay, well that's the gist of it. I'll do the rest off camera because it's just a boring drilling tapping job. When there's more to do, I'll show you what it's like then. G'day everyone, back again. trying to sneak a bit of time out while the family's here. So I've had a bit in the shed today, finished up drilling and tapping the coupler mount plates, and I hope to got them in the right place. I had to offset the lower bolts up from the bottom flange to get away from the radius inside, so the nuts have something a bit flat to seat on. And I've got the couple of pockets ready to weld on. The front one's fairly simple, it's just drill a hole through for the retaining pin, and it will probably very rarely get used, so I won't reinforce it. But the back one, I think the club's going to want a coupler, and if they want a sprung coupler, it's going to have to be hollow and Y-shaped and a hole put through the buffer beam. So that's holding me up. I can't weld anything together until I get all these auxiliary points sorted out, and hopefully someday I'll take a trip out to the club. Yep, and we'll see what's going on. Might be somebody there standing up, who knows, a bit of excitement. A couple of things that I might not have brought to your attention. I've got quite a good assortment of vice grip type pliers or automatic pliers, and having selling them for years gives me a chance to cherry pick and get samples. But these are quite handy, a little 5-inch pair of crescent vice grips. If you just want to hold a few pieces of plate together in the mill before you drill and tap or whatever, I can recommend you get at least one pair. I wish I had a second sometimes. And while I was looking at tapping on the mill, I remember something I bought a while ago when I looked like doing quite a lot of boiler bushes. It's not that common an item. Auto reverse tapping heads, yes, they're absolutely wonderful until you start getting up to 16 and 20 mil capacity, and then it's 3 weeks' wages to bloody buy one. And if you've got thousands of holes to do, they're well and good, they're affordable. But if you don't have thousands of holes, you go to Hammer Forbes and you buy something like this. It's a rigid chuck for taps, or tapping chuck. So there's no fore and aft play, there's no slipping clutch. It's very similar in manufacture to the Piper auto reverse tapping heads. You have a collet nut at the front, and that shrinks a big collet, and I think this one, capacity's marked on here somewhere. Take my advice, it's 9 to 20 millimetres in capacity, which is fairly good. So turning this nut here, and you get quite a nice little C-spanner to lock in, so you can tighten the producers out of it if you want to. And that works quite well. But as well as that, you've got 2 socket head screws, one either side, and they work a pair of locks inside that engage on the square on the tap. That'll be the phone, Reg. Back on air now. Yes, Allen key operates the 2 blocks on the side which engage into the square at the back of the tap. The only difference between this and the Piper's got opposing V blocks, and this is just flat blocks. I've driven quite large taps with this 3/4 inch and 3/4 inch 26, I think it was, and yeah, no troubles with eats it. You just have to watch, it's only plain Morse taper, there's no draw bolt in the back, but as you're powering out, there's no real desire to pull the tap out of the device. I know I bought this many years ago, probably 10 years ago. It was about $118 then, so it's probably $180 now. But if you're doing any amount of tapping, yeah, I'll vouch for that and say it's a good tool. Here's the interesting part about it. I don't know who's got all this bloody imagination over there, but it's made by a factory called Chum Power. Very interesting. Okay, I'll bring you back when there's a bit of a decision and I'll find out where these pockets will be welded onto the couple plates. Bye then, see you then. G'day there guys, back again. Just about to finish off milling out the pocket in the front coupler plate, and that's where this will go. I'm still deciding whether to make it a short pocket with a pin through the front for the coupler, or a long pocket that goes all the way through with a pivot pin in the rear. I've got the fellow running this project from the club coming over shortly, and we'll be having a few discussions and do a mock-up on my rails, which I'll bring you in to have a look at. This isn't too bad to do. I mocked out or drew out the periphery of the pocket I wanted to cut, dialed the cutter over to it, and just put texture pen lines or felt pen lines on the dials, so I've got a rough idea when I'm coming up to the edge. This old machine works quite well, and it's not really foolproof. I've proved that before. Let's give it a bit of a go. I just wander along casually. There's been no race here today. Now, at an earlier time, I drilled through in quite a few places at the back of the pocket in an effort to get somewhere for the swarf to fall through. It's not working as good as I hoped. That's one of the big problems doing a job like this, is get so much crap building up inside the pocket. And the cutters just don't like eating their swarf over and over again. Okay, there's a bit more of this. Oh, that's the phone, Reg. Well, just as to be expected, talking to you guys and talking on the bloody telephone to my better half. I just kept turning the handle and about 1.5 mil too long this end. Doesn't really matter, I'll just call it a well prep, and you fellas will never be any the wiser. Just shows how a little distraction can really put you into deep shit. Anyway, that's it for this part. Next we'll prop it up onto my Loco build stand and see where it sits and decide which way the coupler will go. I think the well will fill that up very, very neatly. At least laterally is the right size. Okay, I'll bring you back when something else happens. Back again, guys. This will be at the end of the clip. I'll swing you down closer for a bit of a look at the riding car so far. Pretty happy with how it's come out. We're still debating if we have to rebate the bolster riding plates up into the frames to gain a reduction of height of 8mm, but I don't think it'll be necessary. Anyway, I'll move the camera out towards the front a little bit and give you a closer look. Okay, here it is in all its glory. There's the front buffer beam. It'll have the pocket welded onto the front of it shortly. See the bogie down underneath, and the balsa riding plate, and the frames go right back to there. 1.880mm in length, and one thing it's going to be is as tough as a brick shit house. Quite sturdy frames. We're going to have drop down sections for the footboards, which will just fit in, I think. Okay, I'll put this video up. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and throw your questions at me. Bye guys.